Hey everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. Today we have an amazing guest joining us, Jordi Miró Bruix, who is Chief Innovation Officer at the Hotels Network. Hello, Jordi. How is your day? How is your morning?
Hello, Alexander. How are you doing? Pretty sunny day in Barcelona, Spain.
Great. Unfortunately, in Rio, we don't have today a sunny weather. Yes, but I'm happy that you have at least. That's nice that you made time to join us today. And before we dive into our interview focused on entrepreneurship, about your past, let's take a moment to understand your personal side and background. I believe just to get to know you better as Jordi and not only as a Chief Innovation Officer. So my first question will be, are there any books, podcasts, or documentary that have had a significant impact on your thinking or personal development?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few ones. My background is in physics, applied physics, which I never, let's say, I have no professional experience in it, but that was my main background. I always loved mathematics, physics, computing. And there's Richard Feynman, who's a super famous physic. He had several talks, books, and recordings that were key throughout my university career and afterwards. Then there's a couple of books which I love for different reasons. One is High Output Management by Andrew Grove. I think that the way he describes the method he was applying at Intel to have the success they had and how that parallels to a diner, a restaurant, and how to manage those KPIs. I think it's the book I've gifted more to young entrepreneurs or friends in the industry. The other one is about having difficult conversations. My father gifted it to me on a period where I was having a tough moment, a tough negotiation, and how to deal with those difficult conversations and how to prepare them, approach them, and have that framework so that you can be ready for those conversations that you try to avoid. They will happen no matter why or how, but you need to be ready for them, and there's different ways to approaching them. And there's aside from technology, there's other things which I love, and one of them is sneakers and fashion. And there's this designer which I love, Jeff Staple. He has a podcast at Hypebeast, and which I like is that he mixes entrepreneurship, technology, fashion, sneakers, and it's a set of a couple of years full of interviews with different designers, but also business leaders, and you can get a lot of learnings because we always tend to think that we need to keep hearing or listening or watching interviews from people related to our field. And there's a lot of times that if you go outside the technology development field and you listen to other entrepreneurs in other areas, there's a lot of things to be learned because there's a lot of common grounds, common situations that we tend to think that are unique to us, and they are not. They are unique to every entrepreneur in many different fields. So I think that trying to broaden the scope of things that you read, that you consume, makes you a richer and a smarter person.
And it's question like after more of the topic, behind the topic, are you more, let's say, audio person or you like to read? Because, for example, it's really hard for me to understand the information through the podcast, through the audio, without seeing something. And what about you?
So I consume more podcasts, audio and video than reading. That's been a fight and a struggle. I don't read as much as I should. Never did. It was a constant fight since I was a kid with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing my kids that they read much more than me makes me super happy. Something good, not by example, but some means. But I consume much more content via audio or video than reading.
Mm-hmm. I believe it's just more convenient because you can be active and listening to something.
It is. It can be, but it is also true that one of the things about the good things about reading is that you need to put your attention into the reading. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I find when listening to podcasts or so is that in a lot of times you don't put enough attention, and you hear the podcast but you don't listen to it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to learn from that content that you're enjoying, you should put 100% of your focus into it. And without your video, a lot of times it can be misleading because you're hearing it, but you're not properly listening to what you
Yes.
should be.
Yes. Yes, you are deadly right. Okay, moving to the next question. What's your favorite quote, or let's say motto, that you live by, and how does it resonate with your approach to software development and entrepreneurship?
I would say that there's none in particular, but I was thinking about something I said before. I love sneakers. I have too many. I should not, but I do. And
Mm-hmm.
there's two big brands, Nike and Adidas, who have two big mottos, which is Nike says, just do it. Adidas says, impossible is nothing. And I think it reflects very well my way of thinking. It's,
Mm-hmm.
of course, there's things that are impossible or that I would not be capable of sending a man to the moon. That's impossible. But in many different scales, it's not a matter of impossible. It's a matter of just doing it. Just think on how to do it. And try to see what you can do, what you need to be complemented, what are the resources that you have, what are the resources you don't, and start acting. And the sooner the better. And the faster that you can
Yes.
go, the better. So those two motors, but those two big brands that I admire, it is something I truly believe, which is execution is key. The
Mm-hmm.
same idea that I have today in my mind, it's on top of thousands of people's mind. What would it make me succeed rather than other people? Most likely it's execution. And therefore, if I need to execute well, let's do it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
do it, and let's try to find those things that will be complicated and how we solve those things. But the sooner I start doing things, the sooner I will realize what are those blockers.
As you touch this topic regarding the execution, on your mind, what is more important for success of the business of the company, innovation and ideas, or business plan and execution?
Execution.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, of course, you need a good idea. Of course, you need to innovate. But sometimes being too early with an innovative solution is not good. Sometimes being with a super good idea but a poor execution, you will not use that product. But with a, let's say, more normal idea but with a superb execution and a superb product, you most likely succeed. So if I had to choose, of course, it would be a combination of both. But if I had to prioritize, I would prioritize execution over innovation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so execution is everything. Moving to the next question. What sparked your passion for technology and software development? Was there maybe a particular moment or experience that ignited your interest in this field?
So I started coding when I was 6 or 7 years old. And I don't
Wow.
know why. I don't know why my parents put me in some extracurricular activities at school, after school uh, program in basic. I
Mm-hmm.
must assume that Tuesdays and Thursdays I had nothing to do in the afternoon, and it was a nice option so that I stayed an extra hour at school. And I was the youngest guy in those computing lessons. And everything started there. We were learning basic, we were learning how to write software that could solve small problems at that moment. Of course, we were also playing, but if you talk now to to my kids. I have 3 kids, and I explained them that it was around 40 to 45 minutes to load a game on a
Mm-hmm.
cassette to try and play an 8-bit, 16-bit games. They're amazed that we could wait 46 minutes or 40 minutes to load the game.
Mm-hmm.
But we were also coding small programs, and that ignited that passion about. And I bought my first computer there, a Commodore 64K, and started writing the first software, buying those magazines where we could see some code and improving it. And so that idea that you could write software to make your life easier, to automate things, to calculate things. And when I went into studying physics, we were using Fortran and other languages like C to solve scientific problems. Was like, if I can do that in an automated way, I'll rather spend my time building the algorithm, building the solution, than doing it by hand 1,000 times. You know? And since a
Mm-hmm.
very young age, I was around computers. My mom was always around computers, and I cannot say when was that moment, but since a very early age, I was around, and it always fascinated me that you could solve your life by writing your own code or using
Mm-hmm.
someone else's code.
I'm really surprised and I'm happy that we've touched on this topic because you can't find such fact that, for example, you at the age of 7 or 8, as you said, you've started writing the code by yourself, and it's quite impressive. So it's like the passion from childhood, we can say. Tell us about your experience with co-founding your own company, Learning Games. I believe it's
So
somehow connected with this story since childhood.
yeah, the learning game was my third uh, founding startup.
Mm-hmm.
Founded a couple of startups in Latin America and the States, then joined Rakuten or Wagyu TV, which we sold to Rakuten. And after being in Rakuten TV for several years, I promised my wife I would never start a new company because it has and my family was growing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of uncertainties, and as your family
Definitely.
grows, most likely you want more certainties than uncertainties. No, so the risk of failure is bigger, and you have more to lose. But I was approached by Iñaki, who was my co-founding partner at Learning Games. He had 2 kids, also younger than mine, and he was building an education platform for toddlers. The idea was that by providing them with games that looked like games, but they were educational, you could have
Mm-hmm.
toddlers using mobile devices on a different way than what we see a lot of times, which is you give them your device so they end up in YouTube watching content so that they don't disturb you. The idea was, let's find something that is richer than that. We did the MVP, the both of us, raised some money, created a super team. And one of the things I mentioned before, we were too early in the game. A lot of the VCs that turned us down when we were raising our Series A because EdTech was not a cool sector to be. Years after, with COVID, and everyone
Mm-hmm.
saw that our kids are learning through internet and mobile applications, and so a lot of them that told us no, now they have EdTech investments. But we got to a point where the company was not doing great. Iñaki didn't want to continue the company. I tried to continue for a while. I had some health issues, mental issues with the stress about not being capable of raising more money, not being capable of getting to the targets that I needed or wanted for the company, and decided that it was moment to call it a quit. We had some investors in the company, decided
Mm-hmm.
to look for an acquisition. We were fortunate to find someone who wanted the product to keep evolving it, and we were capable of, let's say, we can say technically it was an acquisition. We sold the company. Reality is we gave it
Mm-hmm.
almost for free, but we were capable of allowing our investors to keep with that investment and not having to do a write-off at that moment. In fact, the company announced yesterday that it has merged with another edtech company. So happy that those investors that put that money in fast on us still have an asset that hopefully in the future will make them win several times the money they invested in.
And how this experience with founding of your own companies, this startup approach, let's say, how did it influence your current role in the hotels network as Chief Innovation Officer?
I think that one of the things that you learn, or that I have learned throughout the different companies that I have created, sold, or closed, is that you need the right team at the right moment, and that not everyone who's on your team today might be the best candidate for your team tomorrow. Even myself, I might not be the right guy tomorrow. In fact, I've changed my role. I was CTO of the company until January, and now I'm doing another role. Why is that? I think that different moments of the company need different skills. And not everyone is capable to evolve their skills to the skills the company might need in the future. And then it's when you have to face those difficult conversations I was making before. Then if someone might be super talented, but it's super good for the early stages because he's capable of doing a lot of things, more or less okay, but he's not a super expert in anything. Most likely, as the company grows and you have more and more people, you want more specialization and less people that can do a lot of things, but with not that level of craftsmanship. So one of the things I've learned is that you need the right team at the right moment, that you need the right partners, internally or externally, that you need to know your co-founders really well. It's kind of a marriage. So you should not partner with anyone. You should partner with people that you have had the time to know them personally and professionally. And of course, that you need to have the right investors in your side to be capable of building what your vision is.
Really interesting. And what actually the qualities you are looking for and were looking for in the candidates?
So the first thing that I look when I'm hiring people is the cultural fit. In fact, even when I was CTO or today, if we're hiring someone, the first interview is always with me rather than being the last. That in a lot of processes is that you might talk to the CTO or not at the last stage. I'm always the first. Mainly for one thing. I know my team. I care about people as equally or more than business and technology. I think that one of the things you need to do as C-level is having the best team possible. So if I know my team and I know my business needs and my technical needs, the first thing I need to know is, do I see myself seated to this new candidate tomorrow, every single day, either in the office or remote, but do I see myself working with this guy every single day? Do I think that it fits with the team we have an opening? Do I think how he acts, how he talks, his values are suitable for who we are? And that's the first thing I look for, because later my team will help me decide if, from a technical point of view, that candidate has what we need. But if that cultural fit, I don't see it, I don't care how good you are. And I'm not saying it on a bad way. You might be very good for another type of company, but not for ours, because you need to have certain type of values and way of doing things that aligns completely to who we are and how we do things. That is much more important than being the best at something. It's like in a sport team. If you like soccer, you cannot have a team with 11 Messis or 11 Cristiano Ronaldos. You might have one if you're lucky in your team, but what you need is that the team is quite good in each position, but as a team, how they play together, they excel the rest of the teams. So this is the same with engineering teams or product teams. You need to have the best possible ones, but at the same time, they generate that momentum that as a team, that they can overcome any difficulty they have. And for me, that's the first thing you need to look.
So we can say it's like company culture fit or team culture fit, we can say.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch this topic within your current company, the Hotels Network. So the Hotels Network has a global presence, working with thousands of hotels worldwide. How do you adapt your software development approach to accommodate the diverse needs and preferences of different hotel brands and their guests across various regions?
So we try not to do it. Let me try explain you why. No, one of the beauties about a SaaS company is that you need to have one solution that fits all. Mm-hmm. Having said that, you need to understand the different markets, the different cultures, different mindsets. It is true that we are more, let's say, Western oriented, even though we have a lot of customers in Southeast Asia. But for example, and we adapt, we have tens of languages translated into the platform. We have 20,000 mm-hmm. hotels worldwide and everything. So we try to accommodate all the needs from the different hotels. But the idea is that the platform has to suit everyone. We don't do any particular development for a particular customer. If we do it, it's because we think it adds value for the whole set of current customers and future customers. That's one of the things. If you're building a SaaS company, one of the worst things you can do is try to accommodate individual requests by your customers. And at a very early stage, it's something that it is super difficult to do. Because if you have your first paying customers and someone is pressuring you, you don't want them to churn. They might even offer you some money to do that extra development that it is very good for them, but not for your product. And you think in the very short term. Try to think in the mid, long term, those developments, you should not do them. So have a global mindset, think which is the best solution for a global market, and execute it. And try to avoid those little or medium big developments that any customer would have. I have my customer success or my sales representatives coming with request we had a meeting yesterday, our CEO, CTO, CPO, and myself, and one of the things was we have tens of requests every single day by sales and customer success team. They're great. It's great that we hear and we listen to our customers, but it is us that we have to make those comments, gather all that, plus our current roadmap, and decide if it is worth building it or not. And in most cases, it is not.
Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned that you have a good feedback from your customers, from your clients. And could you remember the most, let's say, happiest moment of this, some kind of achievement?
So we have had many. I think that one of the things I've been very lucky on my professional career on building good products. Others that have not been, but when you see customers using any product you've done, it is exciting, and it is from the first e-banking platform I did 20-something years ago to the solutions we're doing today. Anytime you get good feedback or even bad feedback, but that makes you grow, you should take it. For example, we've launched a couple of months ago an AI assistant to generate content. One of the things we do at the Hotels Network is that we allow you to personalize every single web page of the hotel funnel from a visit to a reservation, and with those content that we display throughout that journey, we improve the book conversion. Of course, one of the key elements is how good that content that you put in front of that customer is, so that it increases that conversion. So we created this AI assistant to help you generate that content. And we have had several customers saying us, thanks for making our life easier, because in the past I had to create everything. Now I can just drop some ideas, and with this AI assistant, you're coming back with much more information that we can already present in front of our customers, and it is helping that conversion. That's the most recent one we have had.
Mhm. And with such rapid advancement of technology and consumer expectation, how do you see software development in the hospitality industry evolving in the next few years, let's say 2 5 years?
That would be good to know, because then I would invest in all those companies. But I think that for sure, AI is something that all of us are looking into it, from how AI is helping our engineering teams to develop better code, to those assistants that we're seeing. So I think, and we've been using AI and machine learning for several years. We have a couple of posts this week about that. So we've been heavy users of artificial intelligence and machine learning. But that's something that we are all looking into it. One of the things I would like to see in the hospitality industry is more real self-serve applications. One of the things that I see still in the hospitality industry is that we still sell the old way, because the business still wants you to visit them, and there's less, which I've seen in other sectors, which is you serve yourself with software. So that is one of the things I would like to see, and I think that one of the things that we will see is a lot of consolidation. The market, the travel industry is doing great considering other markets, and one of the things we will see is a lot of companies being acquired, merged to create larger entities.
If you could travel back in time and give advice, only one advice to your younger self, one piece of advice of your younger self, what would it be?
That you should say no to many things and focus more in what matters. And it is complicated to see what matters, but if I could do one thing, is do less things and try to do better, fewer things.
Thank you, Jordi, for this advice. I believe it can be helpful for our audience and for all of the tips and tricks during our conversation. It was a pleasure to discover you as a person and also your personal entrepreneur story. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alexandra. It was a pleasure. And hopefully someone learns a couple of things and does not repeat a couple of mistakes I did in the past.